Yes. Raps on TV, we're back again. Riding solo, doing it solo style this week. Man like Nam's not here, but still have to represent and get the show going, moving. You know how we do. So listen, guys, key things that we're going to be talking about this week. It has been a busy week, I can say, in terms of when we were last here talking about boxing. So we're definitely going to kick into the big rematch that's taken place this weekend. We're talking about Bellew versus Haye 2. Great fight that we're looking forward to watching, especially a lot of animosity in that fight. Big news in terms of Deontay Wilder's team, supposedly offering AJ the $50 million that he asked for. We're definitely going to get more into that as the show goes on. Also, Jacobs, he beat Sulecki. Interesting contest out in Brooklyn. Good fight, good 12-rounder. Definitely going to get more into that. Also, your man Miller, Big Baby Miller, kicked off Duahapas, and he beat him. I won't necessarily say massively convincing, but yeah, he did he done what he needed to do. Also got Triple G versus Martinaysen. If I even pronounced that name right, I mean, listen, let's be fair. After the shenanigans that happened with Canelo, I don't think anybody's really interested in that fight. But you know, it is what it is. And definitely for me, big moment of pride. The Ghanaian boy Dogboe went out to the States and beat guys like Magdelanoe. Massive achievement. One of the youngest Ghanaians collecting a world title. Knocked down in the first round and then stopped him in the 11th. Stuff that bought fucking dreams are made of. So yeah, definitely a big weekend in boxing. So like I said, riding solo, but definitely going to probably open up the lines as quickly as possible. Let the alumni get in. I see 348. I'm going to open up. Hello.
How you doing, Kojo?
How you doing, Tom? You well?
Yeah, very well, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. So you're in, tuned in. So I might as well start with the first topic of the day. Even I forgot to mention, we've got a big interview coming up. Andrew Tabiti, the Money Team fighter. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, great guest to have on the show. He's cruiserweight, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so he'll be on the show later on, probably in about half an hour. So looking forward to that. So guys, stay tuned and locked in for that. So Tom, big fight this weekend, really, in terms of hype and attracting the casuals. Haye versus Bellew. I mean, it seems Haye is fit, and you know, there's no rumours of any niggles like there were in the first fight. So we look like the fight will be taking place. What's your thoughts on this fight? And straight up, are you changing your opinion from who you picked in the first fight?
Yeah, like you said, Haye seems to be in a tip-top condition this time round. I'm still going to stick with Bellew. I think Bellew stops him late, but I'm not as confident as what I was before. I think just the way that Haye's handled himself, it seems like he's definitely more relaxed and hoping to, box to the best of his ability. But then again, I just think that Bellew's sussed him out, and the fact that he's got into his head, even though that Haye's not showing it, he's not getting emotionally involved in the build-up. And I think on the night, I think he'll come short, but it's definitely a 50-50 fight this time round. But I'm going to have to edge with Bellew.
I mean, the fact that you just kind of ended on saying it's a 50-50 fight, again, still shows that Bellew deserves a lot of plaudits, because nobody was really giving him a chance first time round. I mean, I'll say a bit in terms of where I am. I am still undecided. I'm going to be truthful, because, we know David Haye has the reputation. I do feel he's old, and I don't have the same confidence that he's got the sort of power and explosiveness that he had when he took out guys like Chisora, who were, heavier than Bellew. And one of the things, I was in the arena for that fight, and, everyone will say the injury, but for me, as I was watching it with my own eyes, I didn't feel that Haye wasn't hurting Bellew. And I think that's a point people are not taking into consideration if the fight does go the distance. I think we know what Bellew's plan is, to stop him late. And I don't know whether Haye's got the power to sort of like stop him early, which is what we expect from him.
Yeah, and I think as well, Bellew's footwork and his ring IQ definitely goes under the radar a little bit, and it showed in the last fight. Haye was quite clumsy and he was jumping in a lot of the time trying to land those big shots, but Bellew was making him miss and using his feet, the simple things that he employed, to evade those big punches and to use his intelligence rather than get engaged with Haye, definitely won the fight.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, yeah, in terms of the footwork and I guess Bellew's intelligence, that has gone under the radar. I mean, I guess from Haye's perspective, I know you're not picking him, but what is it that you're looking to see from him to really get the win? What are you expecting from him that will allow him to get the win?
Well, I expect him to box at long range and to be a bit cagey to start off with. I think if he keeps it at range, he's definitely got a better chance. As I said, if he's, lunging in or if he's trying to force the big shots, then I think he's going to be made to miss, and then that's where Bellew's counter punches will play a part. I think if he keeps it at range, uses his jab, because aesthetically he's got the better attributes, he's got the advantage physically, so he doesn't have to engage, on the inside. That's where Bellew will have to force the fight, to box on the inside. I think if Haye keeps it at range for as long as he can, then he's definitely got more than a big enough chance to win the fight. That's a key point. And in terms of fights over the weekend, what did you make of the fights on the weekend? Yeah, I was very impressed with Yalusinov making his debut. Just for his skill and his, he's just such a. He's one of those fighters you look at and he's got everything. He's got the flair. He's got the movement, the angles. The only thing I criticised about him was that he's very springy, and that when if he gets caught by a massive shot, then he might be a bit off balance. But he just makes everything look so easy when he's in there. Obviously, he's starting off early doors, so the caliber of opponents aren't going to be what he's used to boxing around the world at in the amateurs. As he steps up the levels, he'll definitely bring the best out of him. So.
Yeah, I agree on that. And going into the rest of the Haye undercard, just quickly, any fights on the undercard that you're looking forward to seeing other than the main event? Any fighters or matchups?
Yeah, I think the two co-main events, Martin J. Ward and Tennyson, is going to be a great fight, and I'm looking forward to Jamie Cox and John Ryder for the British title. I think that could be the fight of the night. But yeah, looking forward to seeing Martin J. Ward in his first big step up. I think James Tennyson's ranked top 15 with most of the governing bodies, or the IBF, he's ranked top 15. So that should be a good test for Martin Ward. But I expect him to prevail through that and hopefully get a shot at the world title, because he's not being given enough credit, I don't think. Recently, obviously, since winning the European title and going through the traditional British Commonwealth route. So obviously he'll be in line for a world title shot sooner or later if he keeps winning and overcomes these big fights. Yeah, no,
I agree. It's definitely a good opportunity to kind of get his game out there in terms of being sort of like the co-support for that card. I have to say, one of the guys I'm looking forward to seeing is Joe Joyce in this Leroy Thomas fight, because I think it's, in a weird way, it's probably one of the first times I'm getting to see an elevation. If Joe Joyce beats Thomas convincingly, I mean, I think the next year is going to be very interesting for Joe Joyce. I have to say that. I think there'll be a lot of opportunities they'll want to present to him. Potentially he may be avoided, but I think if they start backing him financially, I really think he could really have a quick trajectory to compete for world titles. Not necessarily win, but at least compete. So Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing.
Do you think he'll have a quicker? Do you think he'll put himself into a position quicker than what Joshua did for a world title shot?
It's hard not to think otherwise. No, if in his third fight he's fighting for a Commonwealth.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. It's hard to think otherwise. You see what I mean? You know, even if you take it on the average of, you know, of that. What's next after that? Okay, he goes for an international maybe in 2 fights or 5 fights. He's fighting for a WBA, a WBC or WBO international belt. Then maybe try to get a silver of some sort, and then he's in a mandatory position. I mean, you know, 3 fights in, if he wins that belt, I have to take my hat off to him. That, yeah, fair play. They really believe in him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I think if he gets the winner of Sexton Fury potentially 2-3 fights down the line, then if Fury's considered a fringe world level fighter and he comes through that, then there's no reason why to say that he can't go on to push for a shot for the world title, depending on how the mix of champions at the moment, with obviously Joshua and Wilder, negotiations obviously to be made, and then the return of Fury as well. So quite a bright future for Joyce if he gets through Saturday night.
Yeah, no, that's it. And I have to say, I didn't think about that. To be honest, Tom, a Joyce Fury matchup, you know, in the next maybe 6 to 8 months, that would be really interesting. Purely because I don't think there's. I mean, for Fury, of course, he can't lose, and I don't think he necessarily. I don't think he would. But for Joyce, it's not necessarily a bad thing either. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it would really hurt his career. So, you know, it'll be a massive learning opportunity. So that could be interesting. I mean, quick. I was going to keep you on, but quickly as well. I mean, thoughts on this Wilder Joshua offer, negotiations, current state of play. What's your thoughts?
I think the 50 million offer is a load of rubbish, to be honest. I mean, they're trying to use, not Wilder particularly, but I think just his team with Shelley Finkel and his management just trying to use Joshua's name, you know, to build their own profile over here in the UK, because no one really knows of Shelley Finkel. Obviously, Wilder's with Al Heyman, that's his advisor. But yeah, just trying to justify, you know, a 50-50 split or close enough to a 50-50 split, and to try and build their profile over here. I think that's why they're using it as a PR stunt to get, you know, everyone engaged with such a ridiculous offer. But it's working, to be fair. It's working. It's creating hype, so.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I know I have to be honest, and I wanted to try and talk about it as late as possible, but I guess, yeah, there's definitely a lot of people that believe it's a PR stunt. I have to say I can't believe that it's a PR stunt. I think position-wise, I think basically I feel that we're now seeing the fight being built, and we're seeing the groups or camps. I have to say, I'm looking at a lot of things, and I'm trying to go through the smoke screen. And I think the 50 million is real. I think Hearn knows that it's real. I think it's going to just take a bit of time for them to get there. The things I try to ignore about Hearn is, you know, the more insulting type of sort of language that he used, and I focus on maybe what's more factual. When he's openly said he's had 2 phone calls from Espinosa, and he said their position, and the tone he stated that in makes me believe that he knows that it's serious, and Espinosa wouldn't be making conversations if he didn't believe there was the money there. And bottom line is, Heyman's involved, and if you do know boxing, you know 50 million for Heyman isn't really a massive amount. So for me, I do think that potentially, maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I think the fight could. I think we're getting closer. I just think we're seeing sort of like the mess of how negotiations play their part. You look back to Bob Arum, what he was doing, especially with Mayweather Pacquiao. But if you were to ask me, do I think Hearn's having conversations with the right people? I think yes. I think what kind of fucked up Wilder's team, and I don't understand why they did that, is they should have met. I think there's no denying that Hearn was in New York and they should have met. But just because they didn't meet, it doesn't mean the fight's not taking place. I think we have to also, it doesn't mean conversations aren't being had. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
no, yeah, definitely. I just wanted to lastly just ask, do you think that $50 million dollar offer is trying to imply that the fight will happen in the States?
Yeah.
As opposed to having it in the UK?
100%. And I think I'm not saying you can't raise that money in the UK, but honestly, when I said to people there's more money in the States to be made, people thought I was crazy, but it's because you're dealing with a smaller arena, you're talking about pay-per-view. I know Hearn has said, he's got TV rights, but also let's not forget, how many PBC fighters have you seen on Sky Sports this year? Last weekend, 2 weekends, you saw the Broner card. You've seen the Wilder Ortiz. So yeah, and Jacobs is in between whether he's still a PBC fighter, but so my point being that they know that the TV revenue that can be generated in the States for this type of a fight, I think easily makes, if it doesn't do 80 million, I'll be very, very surprised. I'll be very surprised. And do you think, can I ask a question? Do you think it will slightly, it might look back as a schoolboy error that Joshua named his price publicly?
Yeah, I think by putting the offer out there, saying if you give me 50 million up front, and it's just going to entice Wilder to try and match that offer and say if he does present him with a $50 million offer, that it's kind of going to force Joshua and Hearn to accept it. And I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to put the pressure on Hearn to accept the offer. Just the only thing I didn't really get my head around was the fact that there was no terms and conditions to the offer. It was just an offer made over Instagram, and it's kind of like what to believe situation, without having the necessary terms and conditions for the contract. Is it a realistic offer, and whether it's something you can actually rely on from a boxing fan's perspective? Because obviously we don't know the logistics behind all these offers being made. We can only wait for an official announcement to be made. So yeah, it was just a lot of hype created around it, which was kind of hard to get your head around whether it was a real offer or not.
And that's the thing I have to say on that point, and that's what I think is creating the hype around it, as you said. Because for me, I feel that is a lot more of, if I'm being honest, like the new media, as they call us, just making videos, putting stuff out there, but there's no real, you have to kind of listen apart and listen outside of the insults, because there is quite a bit of that going on. I think definitely, the terms and contract offer, terms and conditions, I think most people would accept and say that, yeah, they need to see that. But I think what is getting lost is they're talking about the figure. And Hearn is in a position to say he wants more, well within his right. But the other thing is that the Wilder team are also in their position to say, look, are you interested in this figure? Does that match? And that's where I think the key loggerheads are happening. And that's where I see now that, they've made that offer, I believe the money's there. Because if anything, you could argue that not agreeing is to everything, of course, but at least saying, look, we will publicly agree to this offer if you prove the money is in escrow in 3 days. If it isn't, then it's a bag of bullshit. If they even said that verbally, I think they've outed them more. But honestly, I do believe we're in the negotiations, and it's all about people just trying to get politics. Look at the way Hearn's called this guy Shirley Winkle. Everyone thinks that's his name. So when they're given a 24-hour ultimatum, I think it's down to that, because at the end of the day, Wilder has no right to give Joshua a 24-hour ultimatum. He can say to off. He at best, he should be like, you have 5 days to respond. You can't say, 24-hour ultimatum. Like, let's be real. But I think that's again the politics coming into it a little bit. So yeah, we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how this plays out. But listen, Tom, stay on the line. Appreciate it. And I'm gonna move on to the next caller, man. Appreciate that.
Right,
take care. Cheers, man. Yes, 251. 251.
Yeah.
Yes, what's going on, D? Yeah, I'm good, man. You good?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Not too bad at all.
I was going to say, Tom, I've got you. Yes, you're right. I've got you open, Tom. Yeah, so D, how you doing, man? Good to speak to you. Welcome. I say welcome, but I won't say too much, but good to hear you sounding very strong and, yeah, you know, make that recovery as best as possible, brother.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Good to be back on the line.
So what's on your mind?
I think, first of all, I got to really pick Tom up on that point about them trying to build their name using AJ in the UK. I think what I'd really like to, I don't know, get more of your view on that, Tom, is Shelley Finkel isn't really, how can I put this? I don't get the impression that he's like fame hungry. He's been in boxing from the Pernell Whitaker days to the Tyson Lewis days. Even actually played a role in brokering the fight between AJ and Klitschko. And you wouldn't usually see someone like that on camera. What I've noticed from where I'm sitting is that due to the constant insults from Eddie Hearn directly, is that the first time I saw him on camera was post Lewis Ortiz fight, where he wanted to address the fact that Eddie Hearn said that they had never reached out to the team. And it seems more to me like he's been called out, so he stepped forward. He's not a promoter. Like, obviously, it makes sense for Eddie Hearn or like back in the days of Don King and all these other guys to be in front of the camera because they're the promoters. But you got to bear in mind with Shelley Finkel, he's more so like a behind the scenes character, almost similar to Al Heyman. So I don't really think that someone like that craves the spotlight. I think it's more a case of the character assassination that's taking place from Eddie's side, and basically they've decided that they've had enough.
Yeah. Do you think that the fact that Wilder's probably not promoted as well as what Joshua is in the UK, do you think that dampens chances of the fight happening as soon as we want it to?
Well, when we talk about the popularity of Wilder in the US versus AJ in the UK, I think we should bear in mind that the UK combat sports market is very different to the US, if I've said that the right way around. So, like in the US, for example, UFC has taken a massive percent of the pay-per-view revenue that from US fight fans. Like, if, for example, if you watch the UFC main event night and saw the atmosphere in the crowds in the arena, you'd see that that's actually where the traditional American boxing fans have shifted over to. UFC has put a major amount of pressure on all the boxing promoters in America. So I don't necessarily think it's a case of Wilder's just not popular in America. I think it's more a case of boxing is not as popular in America as it once was.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point. But yeah, so in terms of the offer, I guess what do you make of it then?
Well, I think almost to echo a point I heard you made a moment ago, Gozer. If you know anything about boxing, then you know that Al Heyman has $50 million. I think it's laughable to I was going to say it's laughable, but if you know anything, you know that basically the biggest pay-per-view fights from Mayweather Canelo to Mayweather McGregor, Mayweather Pacquiao, Shelley Finkel, coincidentally AJ Klitschko, Shelley Finkel, Tyson Lewis, like those guys have been involved in all the big pay-per-view fights. I mean, they wrote Mayweather a $100 million check before he even stepped into the ring, and a $100 million check when he got back to the dressing room. So I just think it's ridiculous that for anybody to say that they might not have the money. I don't understand, from my position, and anyway, I don't understand how anyone could think that Al Heyman can't write a $50 million check.
Yeah, I mean, In terms of, I mean, I think it's fair though. Do you not think the meeting at the best they should have at least met up to at least get the conversation rolling? Even we know deals might not be done then, but you know, I think we have to say that they've dropped the ball on that one, because no matter what, that can be questioned, no?
Yeah, I think they should have met. We also don't really know the reasoning as to why they decided not to meet, other than what we've heard from one side of the party. Also, I think, if I remember correctly, there was one point that was raised from Wilder's side, was that when they met Barry Hearn before, the conversation started going into the direction of Dillian White, Wilder, and I think the position that they were taking was that if we're not going to meet specifically to talk AJ Wilder, then we don't see the point in meeting at all. But I do think, irrespective, they should have met. But if I remember correctly, I think that's something that Shelley put out, was more so they didn't want to basically have a repeat of just talking about Dillian White versus Wilder, which, by the way, I do think would be a good fight. But I'm sure boxing fans just want to see Wilder AJ.
No, for real. And I guess this weekend's fight, Haye versus Bellew. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I watched the first fight again today just to refresh my memory. I think it was more of a boxing match up until Haye's injury on both sides, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, there were points where Haye was swinging wild, but then after a while, he started to jab more to the stomach to try and line up a few more power shots. He caught Bellew with a couple of good body shots here and there. I do remember as well, Bellew caught Haye with a couple of nice left hooks. I think it could actually be a 12-rounder after watching this fight again. It's when the injury happened, I noticed it's like not only was Haye becoming desperate, but Bellew actually started to become desperate. He started just swinging away, and it got a bit scatty. Bellew seemed like he ran out of energy. Obviously, Haye was trying to get through and nurse the injury, so we might actually see a 12-round close decision, I reckon.
I mean, that doesn't bode well for David Haye, though, does it?
In what respect? Then he should be knocking Bellew out.
Well, yeah, to go the distance with essentially a cruiserweight. Like, you know, and let's say David Haye has aspirations to fight Joshua's, Wilder's, you know, or Parker's. I won't say Fury, but going 12 rounds with Bellew doesn't really make people think he's capable of doing anything, right? I don't know.
Well, you know what? I'm going to start thinking it today. Maybe he would actually be more effective back at cruiserweight. I mean, he went up to heavyweight. He won the belt against that giant. I can't remember his name. Bellew, I think it was.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure. But maybe Haye would actually still be more effective as a cruiserweight. I mean, he was clearly not big enough to beat Klitschko. I don't think he has the size or punch power to take out AJ, because he hit Bellew with a few shots and Bellew took them. I can't see him beating Wilder in the form and the momentum that he's got now as well. So maybe Bellew should actually consider going down to cruiserweight as well. I don't think it would be as bad as some people may think.
You know what?
Bellew to back 4 rounds.
Sorry, you know what? Sorry, D. Even as you said that, well, I'm thinking, you know what would be fucking crazy is if Haye actually did that, and fucking Ward comes out of retirement to fight David Haye or Bellew.
That would be a fight.
That would be mental.
That would be numbers.
That would be mental. Yeah. So that's just a fight fan dream. Yeah.
Yeah. No. That'd be a hell of a fight if Haye won that. But if Haye beat Bellew. But that's the thing. I just think watching the fight. I mean, Haye looked a bit big and kind of like slouchish or slobbish in the fight against Haye. Actually,
yeah.
He might just be a better boxer at cruiserweight, man. I mean, we're in a new age of heavyweights. These heavyweight guys like Tyson Fury, AJ, they're giants.
Yeah. That's a very good point. You got there. So, okay, cool. Listen, I'm going to quickly stay on the line, D. I'm going to quickly, we've got Tabiti coming through, but Inam's calling through, so I'm just going to open it up to him. In fact, stay on the line and I'll open it up.
Hello?
Yes, Inam, what's going on?
Yes, Kodjo, what's going on?
What's going on? We got Dwayne from Below the Belt and Tom on the line.
What's up, Inam?
What's that, Kodjo? Very well, mate.
Guys, this guy's calling from a sunny continent, so he's enjoying the life.
Nice.
A bit of salt in the wound, trust.
Man, it's beautiful out here. Beautiful. We'll come out here one day. What's the topic about, guys? What are we talking about?
So, Haye Bellew, bro. What's your thoughts on Haye versus Bellew?
I think it's very hard to call on it, man, to be honest. Like, you know, if it was a few years ago, hey, easy. But you don't know how the guy's body's going to hold up, to be honest. He could just break down again.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those explosive fighters. You know, over the years, when you're that explosive, you're going to do back muscle damage over the years. You know, you can't sustain it, especially in old age. So it's very highly probable he can get injured again.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, if he doesn't get injured, to be honest, it's very hard to call, man. It's, you know, even the first fight, it took him, you know, he was winning on points. You know, he wasn't really, you know, looking like he was going to hurt Bellew at all. So, you know what? I'm going to go with Bellew, man. Bellew on points.
Okay. So listen, guys, I'm gonna have to put it on mute. Tabiti's ready to just join the line, guys. So I'm just gonna open him up, but stay on the line. Obviously, listen to the interview, and try and patch you guys back in for some questions if we get time. So stay on the line, guys. So listen, we've got Andrew Tabiti, fighting out of the US, Nigerian heritage, fighting for the money team, part of affiliation management. Definitely somebody you guys want to be keeping your eye out for. He's lighting up the cruiserweight division with some great knockouts. You would have seen the knockout from Tom against Hanshaw. So guys, we've got Andrew on the line. Andrew?
Hey, what's up? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. About to start my day, about to get ready for the gym in a minute. You know, hard work.
I hear that. So listen, Andrew, obviously we know you got a fight next weekend, but just quickly, just tell us how's training been, you know? How's preparation?
You know, training is always intense, you know, just stay on beast mode, stay focused, stay dedicated to my craft, man. I just want to be the best, to be number one. You know, be cruiserweight champion, and eventually be heavyweight champion. You know, I just want to give it my best and give the fans what they deserve, you know. Just, you know, come back and bring the cruiserweight division back.
No, definitely. And obviously, just to get a bit about your history, I guess it could be one of the few times the UK listeners are getting to hear from you. How did you get into boxing, and I guess what's your background?
You know, I got to boxing basically when I was in school. I had this little bully or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he's always messing me up. He's always trying to mess with me. So I beat him up a few times with my stepdad. He ended up getting me to the boxing gym. Yeah, he basically brought me to the boxing gym. When I got into the boxing gym, he just talking after everybody. Hey, this is the next champ. You know, this is the next champ. Like, I didn't know how to throw a punch or nothing. So, you know what I'm saying? So I was nervous when I first came in. So when I started boxing, whatever, I was getting beat up by the little younger kid, beating up by you know, guys that was actually boxing, and you know, I was just like, man, every single day when I was getting beat up, I was like, hey, I have to keep on coming back because I don't want to. I need to learn how, you know, it feels to start beating people up. So,
Yeah.
you know, eventually I started getting dedicated, and I basically started being the guy that's, you know, being good.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an interesting sort of very. Muhammad Ali had a similar story, right? So yeah, it goes to it's quite interesting, guys. That at first maybe you see them as being bullied, but they get into actually being into one of the toughest sports going. So no, that's definitely very interesting. And your nickname is the Beast. I think straight to the point. Where did that come from?
You know, when I was an amateur, I always called myself the Beast. You know, Beast. You know, I wanted to be the Beast to be, you know. But I was actually neglected the nickname while I was turning pro. I didn't really know what I wanted. I was thinking of different type of nicknames, and someone on Mayweather Promotions actually just named it for me on the Mayweather Promotions site. They said, "Oh yeah, Beast to be." So I was like, "Oh snap! All right, that's crazy how that goes." So I just took it, man.
It's stuck.
You know, I be people see how I post, I be beast my workouts and. You know, so I just, you know, ran with it. Yeah,
no, definitely like that. And obviously, we've seen some of the knockouts that you've had in the past fights. Definitely some great show reels. So you're fighting Latif Coyote, a guy who's been in the ring with Luis Ortiz, a fellow Nigerian. What kind of an performance can we expect from you?
You know, just basically show my boxing craft, like some of how you seen with Steve Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
Show that I can box, be a smart fighter. If the guy let me hit him, then you know I'm gonna try to get him out of there. But you know, I just want to beat the guy and you know, just get the victory. Stay tuned up. You know what I'm saying? you know, and stay sharp, you know. So
Yeah, and
that's the game plan.
and I mean, you're saying the right things, but we're also seeing it on your social media. I think something that went quite viral was the video on you on Instagram where you were skipping, jumping rope. How tough is it to stay focused in such a sort of, like, I say, glamorous gym as the Mayweather gym?
You know, I just know what I want. I know the role I want to go to. I know the level I need to get to. So all the distractions, I just put it to the side. I got to focus on where I can get to. You know, I'm trying to make enough money for my family and for me to live a good life, because before I didn't live a good life. So you know, I know what matters. I know what matters to me right now, and you know, boxing matters to me for me to be successful and be able to make money and be able to live a good life. And I can't let nothing get in my way of that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good to hear you sounding very focused. So we've got a couple of cruiserweights over this side of the pond. Are you familiar with Lawrence Okolie and Isaac Chamberlain?
Yeah, I'm actually cool with Lawrence Okolie. I don't really know Isaac Chamberlain too much, but I heard of them too. But I know Lawrence Okolie. Yeah.
Yeah, have you guys ever, obviously similar weights or whatever, have you guys ever sparred or been in any contest together during the amateurs?
No, I never knew him in amateurs. I never sparred. You know, he wanted me to come out there to UK to help him out with the Isaac Chamberlain fight. You know, so you know, I was thinking about it, but I couldn't go because I had maybe an upcoming fight that was happening at the time. So you know, but yeah, he's a good fighter, man. You know what I'm saying? Lawrence Okolie, he's also a fellow Nigerian. Yeah. You know, he's a good fighter, you know, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I definitely appreciate going out there and get some work with him, you know. He's a real good upcoming fighter, you know, real crafty, and, you know, has a good size on him, so that'd be some good work.
Yeah, and Andrew, you're 15-0. How do you look at the current cruiserweight scene? Obviously, we'll get into the Super Series, but when you look at your scene and your division, I mean, what, obviously not just your aspirations, but how do you look at the competition?
You know, I think the cruiserweight weight class is very underrated, especially when you get to maybe like the top 15. You know, you guys be in shape, you guys hit hard, so you know, I think it's an underrated weight class. You got Gassiev, Yusuke. Yusuke was an Olympic gold medalist. You got Gassiev, he's a real good fighter. I think his name is Idris. Tico, he's a good fighter. And you got a whole bunch of guys, you know. And I feel like the cruiserweights, you know, you also got upcoming fighters like Lawrence. You know what I'm saying? So you know, I think it's an underrated weight class that we don't get the recognition. And hopefully I'll be one of them that bring the recognition back to the cruiserweights. But it's definitely an underrated weight class, and I think cruiserweights should get more respect than what we get.
Yeah, I mean, and so you rated top 10 at the moment? Are you top 10 in some of the rankings? Yeah.
Maybe like 3 rankings on the top 10.
Yeah, so from your perspective, I guess after the Coyote fight, where would you like to go next?
You know, hopefully I'll fight the winner for a championship belt. I'm guessing maybe one of them guys is going to vacate it, but hopefully I'll be in the top 2, and I'll be able to fight for the vacant belt. If not, then hopefully I can fight the winner for all the belts. It doesn't matter. But after this fight, I want to fight for a championship belt.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously with the Super Series, would that have been something you would be interested in? You know, you mentioned potentially coming over to the UK to spar, fighting in a competition. Would that be of interest to you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd definitely like to go to UK, and you know, fight, spar, you know, anywhere I can go, man. It's blessings just to go around and do what I love, man. This is something I asked for when I was young.
Yeah. So,
you know, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity, and if I can go anywhere just to, you know, show my talent, it'd be an honor, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, in terms of your fighting on the 11th, I guess what can you tell the listeners to expect in terms of a performance?
You know, fireworks. You know, beat this guy. You know, beat him. Get to the next level. I want to show everybody that, hey, you know, I'm the next cruiserweight. I'm the next man up, and that's based on 11. That's what I'm gonna show. And I just want to tell everybody I thank you guys for supporting me and following my career, man. It's a dream come true, man. Hey, I couldn't do it without you guys. This is something I always dream and pray for. So, hey, I really appreciate it.
No, definitely. Thank you for your time today. I know you got a busy schedule with training and with your day. Before you go, Andrew, I was just going to say, do you want to obviously give out your social media, let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that?
Oh, yeah, well, Instagram, hit me up, Andrew_Tabiti. And on Twitter, Andrew Tabiti89. So, hit me up. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Good luck as well.
Thank you, brother.
All the best. Cheers. Thank you. Cheers. Thanks. Yes, guys. So you would have heard that was the interview with Tabiti fighting on the 11th. Appreciate that. We're going to open up some of the lines and get some of the callers in. I see 985, I'll say resident in command, Daniel. Hello.
I was doing better.
Yeah, we're good. You well?
Very well. How are you? You alright?
Yeah, I'm not bad. I've got Tom and Dwayne on as well, so I'm muting them.
Hi there, Daniel.
How you doing, fellas? You alright?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Perfect. Alright, so what's on your mind, D?
Daniel Jacobs' performance the other night.
What did you make of that?
Not great. What about you?
Yeah, I thought when you say not great, in what sense?
Yeah, how you doing, fella? That's right, Bob. Yeah, just struggled a little bit. Have a great night, yeah. Yeah, nice one. Yeah. Yeah, just struggled. Cheers, guys. See you later. Okay. Yeah, just struggled a little bit, basically, against a guy who ain't exactly top opposition, is he? Or am I wrong? And then how's he going to get on against Saunders and Golovkin after a performance like that? I mean, you're the expert. You tell me.
I mean, I have to say, it wasn't the most inspiring performance, but Sulecki is tough. I want to say he is tough. So I was just going to say, sorry, I hate when there's a bit of background noise, bro. So yeah, he's a tough opponent, but I would say, I'm going to put you on mute, D, because of the background noise. I would say that from a point of view of Jacobs doing what he needed to do, I think he done that at least getting a knockdown in the final rounds. Sulecki is tough. So I want to say his only loss maybe somebody he beat Centino. So yeah, the guy who recently lost to Charlo. So he's not the worst opponent. But I think ultimately what I think you're definitely saying is he should be fighting stronger opposition. And I think next up he should be fighting stronger opposition. Dia, I'm going to come back to you. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, mate.
Now?
Yes.
Is that better?
That's better. That's much better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
So who do you think he should fight next then?
I mean, really and truly, I would like to see him fight. There's only really 3 names. If it's a chart, I mean, and realistically, it's not going to be Golovkin. So there's only 2 names, and it has to be Saunders because there's a belt, or Charlo because there's beef and animosity.
Yeah.
I think that's really it. And if he takes either of those fights, I wouldn't criticize him too much. Yeah. But I know it wasn't the most inspiring performance, but yeah, he what can you do? The guy's tough, and yeah, he did what he needed to. He got the win. That is the main thing.
He done what he had to do. How do you think he would get on against Saunders?
Yeah, I can't lie. That's an interesting one. I mean, really, you would say Saunders could outbox him, but you know what I'm worried about in that fight is just the weight. And that Jacobs isn't that slow. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I think the smart money probably just about goes on Billy Joe Saunders. But would I say that depending on where that fight is, does it sway my thinking? Maybe. You know, because Saunders is not going to knock Jacobs out. But you can argue that Jacobs won't get too many opportunities to knock Saunders out. So it will be a tough fight. It is a tough one. I don't know. What do you think? You think he outboxes him easily?
I think he might make it easy work, Saunders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he might make it easy work, mate.
Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I have to agree with Daniel. I think it's a pretty average performance from Jacobs. Obviously, no one really knew much about Sulecki going into the fight. I just think that Saunders at his sharpest, his superior boxing brain, I think will get him through the fight. Similar to the way GGT would have to approach the fight against Saunders, I think Jacobs would have to be quite aggressive and try and force the pace, try and trap Saunders into the corners, not allow him to move off and then pick his shots off. I think he's going to have to try and smother Saunders to get any success.
Yeah.
If he comes, I know he's definitely not as wild as David Lemieux. He's got much more boxing ability than Lemieux. He's much more sensible in the ring. So I think in terms of pressurizing Saunders, I think that's his best bet to get to him and to land punches. But anything similar to the performance on the weekend, I think Saunders beats him comfortably, to be honest.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think for me, I think I'm more looking at Jacob's game plan to get him that victory. I think we know what Billy Joe Saunders does. But I think is it going to be possible for Jacobs to close him down, cut off the ring, just throw shots to kind of stop him from moving? It's an interesting one. And for me, I think sometimes with the performances, although you are right, I think if we were in a different position where maybe we had said, would Jacobs beat Billy Joe Saunders after the Arkbov fight, the Russian guy Saunders had? I'm putting him. Yeah. If we had asked that, you might have probably said, Jacobs walks him. So sometimes performances can be the opponent. I am thinking about the Jacobs that fought Triple G, and I think his best opportunity, as you said, is to smother him. But can he do that? Is the question. Because Saunders is no mug at the end of the day. He can move on his feet. And he'll throw out the jab, and he'll take the rounds off you. Simple as that. So that'll be interesting. So D, listen, I'm going to move to the next caller, but I appreciate you calling in as usual.
All right, lovely stuff, man.
Catch up, man. Cheers, thank you.
All right, nice one. Take care.
Bye-bye. Going out to 701. 701. The floor is yours. Hello.
Yes, people. Skyhands. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Coach, man. This is Chica's cousin, man. You say, and he and Robert's brethren. Long time, from school days.
Yes, what's going on, man? You good?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Want to pick up everybody, loving the platform and everything.
Appreciate that, man. So it's first time calling in, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm loving what you lot are doing.
Let everyone know your name.
Skyers, man.
Skyers, nice.
Yeah, man. So
what's on your mind, bro?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm not going to say that I'm the most savvy or in-depth boxing fan out there, etc. But I'm mainly more following the whole Wilder and Joshua scenario.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I was just trying to get your ideas and opinions as to what's happening with this whole situation, with this whole 50 mil situation. Because because obviously I've been talking to D and Jigger and Robert and everybody, and obviously there's two sides to the camp. Obviously I'm kind of more AJ, them and they're more Wilder. And
Okay.
it's got to a point where as this thing's been going on, it's like each side keeps accusing the others of becoming less and less objective about the situation and the realities of what's going on and what isn't going on. So, and up until the last scenario with the 50 mil,
Yeah.
like I don't think Eddie Hearn done anything wrong really. I mean, obviously, bar the disrespect that he's showing, like Finkel and Wilder, he doesn't really disrespect Al Heyman from what I've heard.
Yeah.
But he's constantly dissing them, man. But other than that, I don't think he did anything wrong. In terms of the 50 mil, when he's basically saying that he expected to see a draft contract and either a draft contract or have a meeting, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I mean, at the end of the day, he said that he showed interest in the 50 mil. So he basically said he's interested, but he wants to see a draft contract, so he knows exactly what it is that they're offering, or he wants to have a meeting. They had a meeting scheduled for Thursday, and they cancelled the meeting, according to him, and he's basically trying to schedule a meeting for the following Friday, and they aired him, basically. So I gave man the 24-hour deadline, and everybody's saying, oh yeah, you should just accept it, and then so you can move on. You've got Shirley Finkel drafted out an email talking about 2 or 3 different examples when the way the negotiations have gone is that the offer goes out, they accept it, and then they draft the contract. And my main question was that if someone's giving you an offer and you're not entirely happy with everything you've heard, but ultimately you're interested, how are you supposed to get to a point where the contract, the initial offer, gets renegotiated and revised to a point where it's been revised to a situation that you're happy to accept?
No, sorry, carry on.
No, because my main point was that Shirley Finkel was basically saying you need to accept the offer, and then afterwards the contract will come. But if you're not happy, how can you accept the offer? And if you then say, well, I'm interested, but I want to see either a draft contract, or if you can't do that, then let's have a face-to-face, and you then say, if you don't accept the offer, then we can't go further forward, basically, with anything, because anything else would be counterproductive.
So I definitely, I hear your point, and I think, firstly, I've got to say, appreciate you calling in. The platform is all about anybody, any knowledge. It's not about who knows more. Nobody knows anything apart from men like Spencer Fearon. So it's just about fans getting together and talking and different viewpoints. I'll definitely say I'm going to try and be as fair as I feel I'm looking at the situation, but at the same time, if Inam was on the show, he'll tell you I'm Wilder's spokesperson. I'm not, but I've always been, my viewpoint from these two meetings has always been like, I think it's a 50-50 fight, and I question how much Joshua wanted the fight. I truly believe Joshua wants the fight, and I'm going to stick to this 50 million offer. For me, it's real. For me, I think what we're seeing is similar to Mayweather-Pacquiao negotiation, when there's a lot of people talking at the sidelines, but then you've got Hearn, who's the single mouthpiece. So you always have to understand, for a start, Heyman's role is that he's always playing a silent kind of guy in the background, but you've got Hearn, who's a great mouthpiece, and he's done a great job. I think, in my opinion, I think we are looking at negotiations, and we have had a moving point, because what you said is not, it makes sense in the sense of, how can I accept the offer without a contract? Unfortunately, in boxing, it doesn't always work like that, in the sense of many fights are agreed on the basis of somebody agreeing the fee. And what they're saying is, we're not talking about a contract, we're talking about a fee, a figure to start from. So we know that this is what the contract is based off. And you could argue Hearn hasn't come out and categorically said we will accept that 50 million if it's in escrow in 3 days, or if this 50 million can't be in a medium account. But escrow is the best way. So whatever the minimum terms are for escrow, that's what he could have come out and said, which he hasn't. So you also have to understand now that both guys are half right in what they're saying, but they're not saying the whole truth, maybe. Does that make sense?
I appreciate that, but in terms of... Okay, I agree that Al Heyman and them men there are good for the money if it comes to it, because obviously they've dealt with the money before.
Mm-hmm.
But going on past history, they've never really invested that level of money in Deontay Wilder to date.
Yeah.
They haven't even invested in a given fight, from what I understood, more than just 5 million, basically.
Agreed.
So for Eddie Hearn to ask for the information on the source of the funds, you could probably argue that that's a valid question, because not so much whether you can get the money. I don't think he disputes whether you can get the money. I suppose it's more, from what I understood at the time, was, is it your money you're taking out of your pocket to back your guy, basically, or is it a thing where once the contract is signed, then once AJ starts touring, these guys start touring, and the money will get generated, and then at that point, if you're not taking money out of your own pocket to put on the table up front from the beginning, and the money can only come with AJ's participation, then therefore you shouldn't be able to control the entire fight.
But the problem is that no matter what, he is, because ultimately, and this is the other thing I think you have to know, is Hearn knows if they purely, on that basis of them accepting the offer, they become, I'm not saying this is the truth, but I'm saying they become the B-side in the sense of they do not control the negotiations. I think it's fair to say the 50 million is coming from the US market and what it then does in terms of the global market, outside of the US. And yeah, you are right, Joshua is part of that. But I think, again, it's a bluff call, because you have to go back to the initial offer. It was 12 million. There's no, like, the way they calculate this fight, in my opinion, and I think they've shown that was wrong. But what I will say is, forget all the smokescreen and what Hearn is saying and the wing calls and all that. I will say, listen to what he says when he talks about talking to Showtime, the network that Joshua had partnership with, and obviously Al Heyman has partnership, and the fact that Espinoza is having conversations with Hearn. So Hearn is right. They should have met him, but that doesn't mean the negotiations stop. Hearn also would tell you that he's asked for a contract, but think about how long he's asked for that contract. And let's say how long do you think it takes? It's not realistically 24 hours. I'm not even going to give a timeline, but nobody knows whether they're in the background working on his contract. In my opinion, I think he knows the money's there. Espinoza knows the money's there. That's why he's negotiating. And that's why, in my opinion, Hearn saying it is that the fight can happen between September and December, but it will happen in the US. And I think that's just my opinion. So I'm not really listening too much with the insults and everyone kind of saying this, that, because the outside of it, you're right. Deontay Wilder's never made that money and he's never been backed. But it is half irrelevant in the sense of this is an opportunity that they know they can generate money. They can't generate the same type of figures via Wilder Ortiz, Wilder Povetkin. It's Wilder Joshua.
It's basically AJ.
Of course. Of course. Nobody denies that. But AJ, outside of the financial and the commercial, AJ also has the belts. And the only other guy that has the belt he needs is Wilder. And that... But this is all I was just trying to say, in that Eddie's probably got a valid point in that. As much as you guys are bringing money to the table, apparently, unless it's all coming at once from your own pocket, or whatever's being asked, it's coming from your own pocket from the beginning up front, and whatever participation AJ has to do is basically reasonable within building the fight as such. Yeah.
Then you could probably say, fair enough, you guys can probably bar a couple of issues, maybe what I would have thought would be the primary primary thing would be this rematch clause. Bars, stuff like that, let it run as such. But
can I ask you a question though?
They can control
with that clause. When you heard that Wilder made the cash offer, like let's just say it's legit, right? Let's just put, but they're saying no rematch clause. What do you read into no rematch clause?
In terms of, obviously, you could say that shows a sign of confidence on their part, and I think that's another reason why Eddie Hearn never mentioned it on camera. The fact that no rematch clause being an issue, because that would probably show a sign of weakness on his side, or lack of confidence in himself or Eddie Hearn and his fighter. But I think that basically they know they're going to put a rematch clause in there at some point. I think they were just using that as another tool or an opportunity to basically negotiate even harder later on.
And the other thing I would ask you, because I do, but I'm you called in, so I want to. So the last question is: do you want to see Wilder versus Joshua next?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other thing as well that I'm hearing about is this whole Povetkin thing, and Eddie Hearn saying he's not too keen to go to Russia to fight Povetkin, to the point where he implied that he'd almost be willing to drop the belt for that.
Oh,
so
wow.
if there's any truth in that, then you could probably say that there's even more reason for Eddie to want to have the AJ Wilder fight stroke next.
Yeah.
But obviously Wilder hasn't got those kind of issues. The only person he's got to worry about is Brazil.
Yeah.
Which looks like he's trying to line that up, and Eddie's been arguing for a while now that basically that was always the plan, that they were going to do that next. But the other thing I would say is that in terms of agreeing the contract, you were saying before something about usually the way these deals are done, you kind of agree the contract and then things get ironed out later.
Not a contract, just the figure. Just the figure to fight.
Well, the thing is, because he was basically saying there's an offer and he wants him to accept the offer, basically. But there's this whole point of this oral contracts being legally binding in the New York State. And I remember hearing something about that on YouTube, and he hadn't even mentioned that himself.
So
i.e., if they're not happy with the contract, if they're given an offer, basically, and they verbally accept it, then they can be held to it. It can be legally binding in the state of New York.
So
and that is why he would not verbally agree to it.
So the thing is, so that is okay. So there's elements of that which is true, but it's not in the same way. So so there's one thing you've got to say to that is that Eddie's in New York, fine. You could argue Joshua's not in New York. Joshua could agree to it, but forgetting that, what you have to understand with what you have to understand with that law, which is a true law, it really is more enforced because it's based on the landmark case for that is Texas law, as a Texas oil company and another New York firm, and the landmark case for that is that they were in front of each other and they shook hands, and then they backtracked. So I think, although yes, they're verbally binding, I think you would argue that it's not. Well, personally, I would argue that it's not necessarily relevant in this case on the basis of they haven't shook hands and have witnesses. It has to be verbally agreed. You shake hands essentially, and. But
you could probably argue that if Shelley Finkel had his way about it, everybody would know that this thing was agreed.
Yeah, I mean, you could. You could. But for me, I think for me, the problem is, I think they would have had to meet. I think they should have met. I think there's no denying that. So, but Richard, listen, I appreciate you calling in.
I'm not getting. I'm sorry if I'm not getting.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you calling in, bro. Thank you.
Man. Respect.
Cheers, mate.
Love,
Thank you very much, man. Respect. Yeah, so good new caller coming in. We've got 269. I think that's Jason.
How you doing? You alright?
Yeah, not bad. You alright?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Codro.
Good, man. What's on your minds?
I have to call in to listen
Nice, man.
Yeah, we've
Appreciate
been arguing. We've been arguing about this Wilder situation. For the past few weeks, really. But yeah, I mean, Eddie Hearn, he's just something else. I mean, Eddie Hearn does interviews and he talks about the politics of boxing and stuff like that. So, to me, with the offer, with them not accepting the offer and Eddie's valid reasons, it's just a bit confusing because you don't really hear what the other side has to say. And the other side, they don't really. It's really only Eddie Hearn that does these interviews and talks about everything. And I just can't take Eddie's words for. I just can't trust everything he says. So.
I mean, I definitely think you got to take. I was just going to say, I mean, for me, I'll be honest, I think you definitely, and I always say this, not just Hearn, all of them. You have to take what he says with a pinch of salt. I do think there is the problem in this, not as him as an individual, but I do think, he's the only one speaking. But that's why I try to remind people that remember how Heyman does business. So just because there's no noise coming out, do not think there's like movement happening. And that's why essentially you have Heyman put guys like Bellew in the media because that's who he uses to kind of be more of a mouthpiece. Whereas Hearn, which fair play to him, look, the guy's genius at it. He does it all, and he rallied up. But listen, what was your point? What else was he going to say?
Well, I have a question for you, actually. I don't know, if you was Eddie Hearn and you had Andy Joshua as your client, would you allow him to take that $50 million offer? Or would you prefer to put on the show yourself and make all the profit on that show?
I think he definitely wants to put on the show himself, and not only just whatever the profits are, just control everything. I think he.
I mean, it's not just for the profits, but come on.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
for the benefit of the reward.
Exactly. I mean, it's what he knows. It's. I think there's no doubt about it. In my opinion, he would prefer that, but I have to say, Karen.
And the legendary fight as well.
Yeah, because exactly, and there's no two ways about that. And fair play to him, and hats off to Joshua because they're in that position. I think, and this is why I kind of said earlier: is have they made a bit of a mistake with their pricing of this fight and publicly saying 50 million? Because the problem is now, if you ask me, what are they negotiating? Like this, Eddie Hearn's confirmed conversations with Showtime are happening. Espinoza, is he talking on the base of 12 million or is he talking on the base of 50 million? I'd say he's talking off the base of 50 million because Wilder's declined that 12 million offer. So I think that people have to look at that a little bit. And there's so many people talking like saying this, he's scared, and it's all of this. Nah, like Hearn is speaking to Showtime. He's having conversations with PBC. Sky Sports recently done the cards, which we all know Eddie Hearn would have been part of with PBC. So I really think they're negotiating. I really hope we can get the fight next. But I'm confident we can get it this year. I have to say, bro, I'm confident.
Well, I think for the past week, I do actually feel now that the fight is going to happen, and that it's highly possible that it's going to be this year.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, and a lot of questions can be answered. I really feel like Joshua hater, the fact that I feel that Wilder's going to knock him out. But I am a big fan of Joshua. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank you for listening to my.
No problem, man. What's your take on the Haye versus Bellew?
Man, I think Haye could possibly do it. However, I think Haye should try to go for a win on point and not exhaust himself and not try to knock him out, kind of thing. I think he could win if he done that. However, Bellew is looking a bit sharp and he has trimmed down a bit as well.
Yeah. Definitely a big fight. And no, it shows the sad state of affairs in the sense that this was supposed to be a big fucking weekend of boxing. May 5th, Triple G versus Canelo rematch, and the guy went and took kombucha on. Are you even gonna watch the Triple G fight now?
Is it on Sky Sports?
No. You know what? I haven't confirmed, but it's probably on Box Nation.
Well, shout out to Sky Sports and Box Nation. I'll mostly try and watch it.
Yeah.
I'll mostly try and watch it. I'm interested in it, really.
Yeah.
I've got a high interest now in the Charlo brothers, although I can't tell the difference.
Yeah, man. Bro, some people don't even know. Nobody can tell the difference. I've met few people that know who Jamel and who Jamal are. Trust me. Trust me.
It's even confusing down to the name.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, bro. So now I appreciate you calling in.
That's good, man.
Alright, take it easy, bro, man.
Nice one,
Take it easy, man. Cheers. So yeah, as we mentioned, the Triple G fight, he's fighting Vanez Martirosyan. I'm not gonna lie to you. I like Triple G, but I have to call him out on this one because this, although it wasn't a massive fault of his own, I think he should have just postponed the whole event because to fight a guy coming up from essentially 154 in his first fight to have to face you, I think is a shambles. Especially since you've got history of fighting Kell Brook. I think you should have just put this fight on the ropes or put a bit of money into the event and try to persuade somebody with a bit more competition to get in the ring with you. But this is more or less unacceptable. So for me, I'm not a big fan of that fight at all. Also, definitely want to touch on the fact that you saw, as everyone said, Jacob Sulecki, but on that undercard we had Miller, who fought Duahapas. So it was impressive from Miller, more probably his footwork and his boxing intelligence, but I think he really needs to work on that power, as most people would probably say, because at the end of the day, weighing 300 pounds and not knocking your opponents out or down is not ideal. So definitely want to see more of that. Other thing I want to say is a lot of people have been questioning PBC. Personally, I think, as boxing fans, and if you're listening to this show, you probably are a boxing fan, because we're not mainstream at all. I think you've got to look, again, you've got to take the pinch of salt with what a lot of people are saying. They tell you PBC is not successful, but this year, you look at the amount of world title fights they have, look at the stable that amongst their collection of fighters, and even non-world titles. You talk about the fringe fighters, usually the top 2 or 3 in most divisions are coming through PBC. Probably not cruiserweight, as we know, but in middleweight, but we know they've got some interesting fighters in probably most of the divisions. So I'll say, listen, don't believe all that you hear. It's been announced that El Spencer will be facing Carlos Ocampo in his hometown of Dallas, so that's definitely something to look forward to. And yeah, in terms of the scene, you know what you want to do for the latest news, the latest updates, everything boxing. You got to follow Raps on TV, the Instagram, the social media, which is the Facebook, the YouTube, and the Twitter. We're always here talking the best things in boxing. So guys, we're out. Have a good week. Listen out for more news.
But there's an unbeatable way of quitting from